Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight's business meeting. My name is Brad Gottschall, your Lower Paxton Township Manager, and in typical fashion, I will give a brief summary of tonight's business agenda. Under old business, Chairman Henry will present the 2019 Arbor Day proclamation. The board will then take action on an addendum to the 2018 audit agreement with Zelenkovsky Axelrod, further adjusting the scope of services and related fees as a result of additional requirements to the audit. Next, the board will act upon bids for cleaning services to the Municipal Center, Friendship Center, Public Works, and sewer operations facilities. And then finally, before acting on improvement guarantees and payment of bills, the board will consider supplemental agreement with HRG for the Red Top Road Bridge project, including preliminary engineering to the scope of services. And at this point, the members of the board are seated and prepared to begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gottschall. We'll call this meeting of the Lower Paxton Board of Supervisors to order. We'd like to ask everyone to please stand, and Mr. Judd will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have before us approval of minutes for the meeting of November 13th, 2018. Is there a motion to approve that set of minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the minutes of November the 13th, 2018 as prepared and circulated.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Before we proceed to public comment, I would like to announce that prior to this meeting, the Board of Supervisors met in executive session to discuss a number of potentially legal issues. And with that, does anybody in the audience wish to address the board on an item not on the agenda tonight? Mr. Murphy.
Being the first meeting of the month, I wanted to come in and invite everybody to the Historical Commission meeting, which will be this Thursday night. We will be honored to have a guest speaker, Elizabeth Carter, who was one of the residents of the Masonic Home and Orphanage that was in Linglestown. She's going to tell us some stories. She and 4 of her siblings were at the home for 2 years while their families had some personal issues, and they took care of them. She's also going to have her brother come, and we're going to set up a conference call for everybody to hear from her sister who lives in New Jersey, as she was older and actually went to the Lower Paxton School. So I think it's going to be something new for everybody, and to have somebody who was actually there when the orphanage existed. Secondly, on Saturday, as a continuation of our last meeting, we're going to have a tour of the old South Mountain Railroad. Bob Thomas, who gave the lecture at our meeting last month, has agreed to take a few people and walk what is left of the route of the railroad. There still are some bridges over the creek, and there are still some of the pathways you can see where the railroad cut through, down behind where St. Thomas UCC Church is. He's meeting everybody on Parkway East on the corner of St. George. And there's actually a place they can park there. Oh. It's the first street back off of Linglestown Road behind the orphanage property. And he will be about an hour tour. If anybody's interested, they can meet him there at 9:45. Okay, on Saturday morning. And then the last thing I have for you is you all got an invitation 1 month in advance. We are officially now going to be with R.J. Harris in his salute to the troops. We're going to have with us Congressman Scott Perry and also Andrew Lewis And a very famous veteran who you all know, Mr. Zumas, is going to be helping us present the lives of the three servicemen that passed away on Blue Mountain. And as soon as RJ's event is over, we're then going to ask people to come up to where the plaque is going to be and unveil it. And they can see where the plaque is and also see where the mountain is that the plane crashed. So that's what we have going for this month and early next month.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your hard work, Joe.
I don't do anything. It's all these guys like Bill over here who's on the commission and the commission members that are really doing the job.
And Polly, too.
Thank you, Mr. Chrisman.
And congratulations on getting such a famous veteran to be part of the ceremony. Yes. Well, we're very pleased that R.J. Harrison, WHP, has chosen over the last couple years to have the salute to the troops at Heroes Grove here in our township. Any additional public comment? Yes, ma'am. Please give us your name and address.
My name is Dana Henney. My address is 2178 Winston Road, Harrisburg, PA. Mr. Gutschall was at my house last week, and it's my understanding that you all are looking at going in the TNR program. I gave him a detailed tour of my property and the damages. I've got some more information, one from the American Veterinarian Medical Association, which says no to TNR, to the Professional, Ethical, and Legal Dilemmas of Trap, Neuter, and Release that also say no to TNR. As Mr. Gutschall can tell you, we went through my property and he saw a lot of the damage. This neighbor that's feeding these cats is not managing anything. I have more cats than I had in August when I was here the last time. It's growing. It's not decreasing. I've been working with Kathy Fritz from PAWS. I have a letter from her from 2 weeks ago. They were out trying to trap some of the cats. They can't trap the cats because she's saying the cats are too well fed. I had a gentleman apparently that wants to work for the board and come and do the trap, neuter, and release at my home. I'm going to tell the board right now, unless you all are going to put him on payroll and you're going to license him and insure him, nobody is going to come onto my property without my permission. But this has gotten ridiculous, guys. This is going on 4 years now that I've come to you all begging, pleading for help. This is not a joke. This is not a pleasant situation for me. I can't open my doors and my windows when it's nice outside because of the stench. And as Mr. Gutschall can tell you, we walk through lots of fecal matter in my yard. My flower beds are destroyed. I'm losing shrubs because now not only is he feeding the cats, but we're feeding groundhogs, raccoons, skunks. I had a gentleman at my home yesterday about trapping the groundhogs and the raccoons, who is telling me, even if we trap these and I get rid of them, I spend all this money to do this, I'm not solving anything because the neighbor's putting big cookie sheets of food out there. But this has gotten ridiculous. And if you guys can't get a backbone, I understand 75 people showed up here after, the initial that we were going to pass a feeding ban. But I've asked questions. Who were these 75 people? They weren't from Lower Paxton Township. They were from all over the place. This mentality with the TNR programs is it's a cult. My vet says, do not feed these cats. You are doing them disservice. The state vet, Dr. David Wolfgang, says, do not feed these cats. You are doing them a disservice. This is not managing anything, because when I first came here almost 4 years ago, it was between 12 and 15 cats. We're up to 40, 50 cats now. And this is coming from your resource officer as well, Brian McIntyre. So I'd like to give this to you all to read, and I need something done, because my next step, and I've already spoken to an attorney, my next step is to sue the neighbor and Lower Paxton Township.
Ms. Henny, can I ask you a question? Because the whole reason that we're exploring options is because we want to do something. This is not anything that's being taken lightly, and it's not an issue we are ever going to brush off. It's much more complicated than I expected. Now, what I want to ask you is, what would you like us to do?
The cats need to be removed at this point.
That was my approach. That's exactly what I wanted. But we cannot find anywhere to take them. That's a huge problem. And I would
therein is the problem.
give anything, I would allocate anything. We can't find a place to take them. And,
I will find you a place to take them then.
well,
'Cause
Please do.
I've been working with lots of different organizations and groups now, trying to figure out what the best alternatives are. There are shelters that will accept the cat. May not be in this area, but there are shelters. There are places that will take them. Out of the last group that Kathy was able to get, she was able to take one and get it adopted out. These cats they've been doing this for so long that they have no social skills anymore. A lot of these cats they're not kittens. They're a couple of years old. You know, one of the big things that these groups were touting is that, that they have a shorter lifespan. That's not the case. These cats will live long lives because they have an active food source.
well, just so you know, I mean, as far as the option of doing nothing is not anything that this board is considering. And I know it's taking a long time. And for you to live through it, it's
And
a
Mr.
lot
Miller.
different than the
Several others.
people who aren't. I know exactly who they are.
Yeah, they're a
We
couple critical.
are committed to doing something. It's just that right now we have not been able to, with all these activists and with anyone that we have spoken to, find a place that can take that many feral cats. And if you know of a place, or a place that we haven't looked, we will look.
I will talk to Dr. Wolfgang again. I haven't spoken to him in over a month, but his stance on all of this, and he is one of the state veterinarians, is that this is dangerous.
Well, I understand, I know we've been around and around on the thing, but we need a solution. Doing nothing is not an option. So if you're saying the option is an outright feeding ban or,
If
You
if you do an outright feeding ban, this is going to naturally, the cats are going to move off. Okay, there's a lot of research, and trust me, I've spent way more hours on a computer looking into all of this than I ever cared to. But these groups are saying that if you stop feeding them, that more are going to move in when they go off. That's not necessarily the case.
If there's no,
They're going to disperse. They're going to find food. They're going to move off. More than likely, they will go to the woods. Then they're with the other animals. What's happening right now is that I literally have a crater underneath one of my shrubs. And I thought that it was a groundhog, and I'm being told yesterday, no, that's raccoons. So these animals, they're going to fend for themselves. These are no longer domesticated cats. They're wild cats. Just like a raccoon or groundhog, they're wild. If we stop feeding them and put the feeding ban into effect, the cats are going to move on. They're going to start to disperse.
or we could do a hybrid where we control the feeding and we're also taking them out and neutering them to reduce the population that way.
That doesn't help us when I've got a neighbor that's got close to 50 cats that's using my yard as a litter box.
It would be very helpful if you know of potential locations where cats can be relocated to. It's becoming apparent that this is going to require several strategies to get under control, of which TNR is one. Relocation, however, is going to be necessary in areas where we have chronic congregations of cats, you and at least two others that we are aware of. Our problem is we haven't been, in talking even with all the cat groups, been able to come up with a place to relocate them to. So if you have information on that and can provide it to us, we'd be most anxious to receive it.
I will get you some information. The individual that came out yesterday from the trapping, he works with Angel Pets, and he was going to reach out to her yesterday to find out some more information about relocating cats out into individuals with farms.
Yeah, because you have 40 or 50, Steve has, what, 25 or 30?
The numbers are so big that
Yeah, so we're probably...
I would love to do that. But if it can't be done, then we got to move on to Plan B. But as far as doing nothing, that isn't going to happen. And as far as who gets, it's the problem areas like yours that get the immediate attention.
This has been the subject of considerable discussion and considerable staff time over the last couple months. We are definitely, as Mr. Judd said, doing nothing is not what's happening. I realize that we haven't come up with an adequate solution yet. We're trying. So to the degree you can provide us with information to help us along, we're very open to that.
I will get you as much information as I possibly can.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Can I just ask a question to Brad also? When Kathy comes out from Paul's, has she suggested to the neighbor that they only get fed once a day, that the food does not stay out 24/7?
She has.
Okay.
The first attempt that Kathy had with the neighbor, he actually told her if they came on his property, he would have them arrested. He's since now understanding, I guess, a little bit more that this isn't gonna, that something's gonna be done.
Right.
He did allow her to leave traps there this last time. But as far as the feeding, I don't think she's been able to make him understand that in order for them to be able to trap them, they have to have an incentive.
Right.
Go into the trap, and that would be the food that's
Right.
inside the trap.
Makes sense.
This is an elderly neighbor, and so there's more going on here than,
Because I know the lady from Stilton Cats, when we met with all of them, she said she has an off-site, and it's in a woods where there's tan bark, and then she feeds once a day. That is it. And she did the TNR. She went from 30 cats to 10 cats, on the TNR. So, and then, the cats get older. But she said you should only feed once a day. And I didn't know if that was suggested, to the neighbor that just, then you wouldn't be getting the raccoons and all of the, the groundhogs.
they're putting food out, I know, multiple times a day in cookie sheets. I know that they were feeding them in the morning and then in the afternoon. I have stayed clear of the neighbor because he and I have already had a heated discussion over the cat and cats. And I bring up the cats, he says I flooded his basement.
How would you have flooded his basement?
What's the connection?
Yeah.
There is none, other than it was to deflect me trying to talk to him about these cats. Is that, and I've had another neighbor who's on the other side of me tell me, she had to call the police on him. He threatened to hit her, I guess, just a few years ago. So I'm not going to have this discussion with him. I know Kathy has tried several different times. Kathy tried to speak to him and his wife about the enormous issue going on with them having all of these cats there. And there's no reasoning capability there. I'm gonna do what I want, and there's no laws telling me I can't, and you can't tell me I can't feed these cats.
Well, they do. In some municipalities, if they say if you do TNR, if you have TNR, you've got to feed according to TNR. So we'll see.
Right. So, I've stayed clear of them and trying to, let Kathy go in and talk to them because I thought she's gonna have more success with them. He already knows I'm upset with what's going on with the cats.
Okay.
I can tell you in the last 4 months, I know we've increased probably at least between 10 and 15 more cats than where I was in August. You know, and they're not, it's never gotten smaller. It's getting bigger, because when this first started, when I bought my house, I had between 12 and 15. And then that next spring, when I called Officer McIntyre, and he's telling me, oh no, you have between 20 and 30. And I mean, the numbers just keep growing. Now they're telling me that that they've been taking care of the cats, and that they're having them neutered and spayed. It's not just that. The rabies vaccine has a 3-year lifespan, but that's only good if they get the booster shot. So
Right.
within that year, they have to have 2 different shots. If they don't get that second one, they can be rabid. And with the problem that I'm seeing now between the raccoons and the groundhogs and everything else, this is a big concern. I had a skunk out during the day 2 weeks ago on a Friday. I'm leaving my house to go to class, open my garage door, and I mean, I'm hit with the skunk smell. That's scary. Now, it's my understanding from another neighbor, we've got a fox in the area. So we're getting all this wildlife into this residential neighborhood. They're being drawn. Whether they're being drawn to the cat food or they're being drawn because the cats are there.
Well, foxes will be drawn to cats,
Yeah.
which, how do I put it?
I've said that.
You have a natural predator thing there, but then you have foxes in the neighborhood, which is an
Right.
even worse situation. So
But we also
none
have
of this
small
is good.
in this neighborhood.
Okay. Let me just say this. We're very well aware of the problem that you have, and Mr. Miller and at least one other, and I'm sure there are going to be more who are going to come forward. Like I say, please provide us with information. Where we are stuck is on where to take them to.
Okay.
And I'll just say, we're going to try everything we can try, and I'll just speak for myself, but if over time, everything we try does not result in a reduction of cats, we're told that if we do a program, stick with the program, may not be one cycle, may take a few breeding cycles, that there will be a reduction in cats. And if there's not, then
Yeah, and I'm gonna leave this stuff. You guys can go through
Okay.
and read this. This is from, again, the American Veterinarian Association and the ethical treatment for animals there. The problem with the TNR group is this.
Okay, if we could, we're going sort of around in circles, and I don't really mean to cut you off, but we've heard all this, and we've heard you, and we understand, and we're trying. So, we had staff go out in order.
Just addressing Mr. Judd and his comment that they're telling him that there's gonna be a reduction in numbers. The numbers are not there. The proof is not there. You've got your state vet.
well, we have neighboring municipalities that keep telling us that, yeah, you will be able to do it.
Well, we're like I said, there are multiple strategies here. There are multiple steps we can take, and
We'll know if it works or not.
Yeah.
We will know.
if it doesn't work, then
3 years now, and I haven't had any reduction. They're increasing.
well, we understand that removal is a key here. You're helping us figure out how to accomplish that. We are willing to accomplish it if we can find a place to take them to.
All right, I will find some place.
And
Okay.
I would respectfully request another piece of information from you, since you made the comments. I think the theory has validity. I'd just like to have some documentation to support the theory, and that is that, and you said, that you named the resources from which you heard it, that in fact by not feeding, that animals, and I'm going to say animals, I'm not restricting it to cats, that animals, when the food source disappears, will search out other sources and go to other sources to seek that food. I've heard you say, I think it was the Department of Health or the Secretary.
Your state veterinarian.
Yeah, and yes. So any of those sources that are providing that kind of documentation, if you have that in writing, I would certainly ask you to submit that to Mr. Gutschall. I would like to keep that information available because that certainly is an option where mandated non-feeding of feral cats can certainly be implemented as well. Again, I'm not saying cats, I'm saying animals. That eliminates the skunks, and the raccoons and the fox and all of that as well. And so by not feeding, wildlife does seek its food. Deer, any bear, any of them where they're a source. Any number of us who live out in the community have had deer in our backyard because they're a source of food there. I've had bears come up to my bird feeder and destroy it. He actually tried to get in the garage. But the point is that wildlife will seek food source. And when it disappears, they will search in other areas for food. So if you have that documentation, I would appreciate you would provide that to Mr. Gutschall so the board has that documentation as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The letter that I sent to you from Dr. Wolfgang, there's information in that letter. There's also information in these 2 articles, and I have some other sources I'll forward on to Mr. Gutschall. Thank you.
Thank you.
It is. Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else wish to address the board on an item not on the agenda this evening? Okay, seeing nobody else. At this point, we have chairman and board member comments. Board members, do you have any comments this evening? Mrs. Lindsay?
Don't. It's been quiet. We haven't met for 2 weeks.
Yeah. No comments?
No comments.
Wow. Anybody else?
No, that was
Holy cow. Quiet board this evening. Mr. Gottschall, the manager's report. Do you have any comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I have a few comments for tonight, if I may. Each year the township has the potential of receiving quote-unquote surplus return from the PIMIC Health Insurance Claim Fund for which we are a part of. And that is as the entire consortium, the entire PIMIC consortium has a claim history over the year that remains low. Each member of the group, like Lower Paxton, receives a portion of this surplus. Each municipality then receives such surplus based on their claim fund performance ratio. That is virtually how many and how large of claims have been over the past year. So in 2018, Lower Paxton's performance ratio was 94.14%. The further below 100% you end, the larger a surplus return you will receive. So with a ratio of 94.14 in 2018, the township's return will be approximately $444,000. And this represents an approximate increase of $200,000 over our 2017 return. And that number is factored into 2018's fiscal year budget. So this is obviously some great news. It's a great return for 2018, and that really should be credited to the township's safe, healthy, and active workforce, as well as the township's participation in PIMIC. If we weren't a member of PIMIC and we weren't in such a consortium, we would not be receiving these returns. These consortiums are typically members are typically only municipalities, and so their sole purpose in being in existence is to provide medical insurance services to their members. So that's what they do, and that's why we receive such great rates and surpluses back. Curbside leaf waste collection began yesterday, which was April 1st, through our contracted solid waste hauler, Waste Management, and will last through December, while the township's compost facility opened today, April 2nd, and this will remain open until approximately mid-December. So for more information on that, those two programs, you can obviously visit the township's website at any time to get more detailed information there. The township's Easter egg extravaganza, or Easter egg extravaganza will be held at Brightville Park on Saturday, April 13th at 1 p.m. This is a free event and it's open to the public. Children ages 2 through 10 are encouraged to participate and take part in that great activity. And then the Shade Tree Commission will be celebrating Arbor Day this year on Tuesday, April 23rd at George Park at 6:30 p.m. And again, the public is invited and encouraged to attend. And Mr. Chairman, that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. We have no old business. Under new business, we do in fact have that Arbor Day proclamation. And I don't know if we need to actually vote on a proclamation. Do we need to vote on a proclamation? No, I don't think so. No, other than to say that as Mr. Gottschall explained, on April 23rd, we are going to have an Arbor Day celebration, and that will be again this year at Heroes Grove, I believe, which is where we had it last year. And we do have a proclamation that we will be reading at that point in time.
We're getting a no from the
We're
crowd.
getting a no from somebody. We're not at Heroes Grove?
George Park.
George Park. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. George Park. I'm glad you mentioned that, or I'd have been standing at Heroes Grove wondering where everybody was. Okay, so Arbor Day celebration is going to be on April 23rd. We are going to be at George Park. And we, of course, will be urging everyone in the township to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands and to support our urban forestry program. And we hope that everybody will join us at George Park on April
They can hear
23rd.
you read that proclamation.
You want me to read the whole
No,
proclamation?
they'll have to show up.
I'll have to show up in order to hear it. This is a teaser.
Thank you.
You don't get the, thank you. You want me to read the whole proclamation?
No, that's why I said thank you. We'll come and see.
We will read the entire proclamation at the Arbor Day celebration at George Park.
Right.
Mr. Gottschall, will they be having seedlings like we normally do to give to the children to plant? Do you know?
I do not know that information, but
Okay.
I'll
Okay,
let you know.
usually we do, because usually we have a school there, so.
Right, but this is at 6:30 at
Right.
night, so I'm guessing we will
Well,
not.
last year it was.
Normally, we have it during the day, and
But
then we
last
have the
year it was
students
too.
come
An
and
evening last
It was an
participate.
evening
yeah.
last year. And my question is, it says replanting trees that were removed. Why were the trees removed? Oh, thank you, Jody.
I'm glad you're here. You have all the Arbor Day information for us.
That's right. You take the minutes for Shade Tree. Okay.
Ah,
Oh, okay, great. Thank
there
you.
will be seedlings.
So that's an incentive for families to come out and bring your kids, because you get a seedling, you can plant it, and in 10 years, you'll have a Christmas tree.
Oh,
Boy
good.
Scouts, okay. Last year, I think
For
we used the
those who
Girl
may not
Scouts.
have heard that, the program will be put on by the Boy Scouts. Great. Jody should go to the mic. Yeah. She's being shy.
We got away.
Okay, well, by popular demand, I won't read the proclamation, and we'll see everybody on April 23rd. With that, let's move on to item B. We need to take action on an addendum to our 2018 audit agreement with Zelenkowski Axelrod LLC. We have to adjust the scope of services and related fees, and I guess we don't have much choice in the matter, do we, Mr. Gottschall?
No, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we do not. So as a result of GASB number 75, dealing with post-employment benefits, the addition of a single audit due to the receipt of in excess of $750,000 in federal monies for our bridge projects, and also the Build America Bond Swap Agreement, ZNA has provided the attached addendum proposal to the township's 2018 audit to provide additional services to meet these additional demands.
Perhaps we should read aloud GASB 75 so that everybody has an understanding of it.
I'll be back tomorrow morning while you
You'll be back.
continue to read.
Any questions of, what is the total dollar amount we're discussing?
Between 12 and
12 and
16.
16,000.
12 and 16,000.
It's estimated because we had been, at the audit committee, we had been alerted that this was coming, of course, this requirement. However, ZNA had not estimated the amount of additional audit hours that it would require. Fortunately for us, they have done this for other municipalities. They have the format already established. So it will help us to the extent of what needs to be done. But they've guesstimated approximately 120 to 160 hours. And on that basis, the range would be 12 to 16,000. They can't give us an exact amount, of course. But again, there's no choice.
It was
what's
just
required.
during the course of normal financial activity over the last year, we did some things that require extra auditing,
Correct.
and therefore we have to pay for those services.
Absolutely.
It is what it is, what it is.
It is.
Any questions? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the addendum to the 2018 audit agreement with Z&A LLC, which adjusts the scope of services and the related fees, meaning the GASB 75, in the amount of 120 to 160 additional hours of work, with the estimated cost range between $12,000 and $16,000 as presented by Mr. Gutschall and recommended.
So moved. Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Seconded by Mr. Judd. Any further discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. That takes us to item C, and we need to take action on bids for cleaning services at the Municipal Center, the Friendship Center, at the Public Works and Sewer Operations facilities. And we have bid proposal, Mr. Godshall.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So on April 1st, the township held public bid opening for the cleaning services within the Municipal Center, the Friendship Center, Public Works Facility, and Sewer Operations Facility. Only one contractor placed a bid on this request. So staff recommends awarding this contract to Preferred Janitorial Services, the current vendor and lowest qualified bidder, at a total annual amount of $61,006.68 for all three contracts, subject, of course, to the solicitor's review, execution of the agreement, and receipt of all appropriate documentation.
Mr. Gutschall, I just have a question. Preferred Janitorial, is that who we're using now, did you say?
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
and weren't we having some issues with them at all three of the buildings? We've had a lot of complaints from staff.
Over the last number of months, we have had a few complaints by staff at a number of our facilities, for which I had enacted a penalty per the contract that I believe has made a positive impact on their performance. That mixed with the fact that they were the only bidder on the project, we felt that at this point, given that it's only an annual contract, it would be staff's recommendation to go ahead and give them another year under the new contract.
All right, so we'll be keeping an eye on them?
Yes, I will be keeping a close eye and making sure that all the facilities are made aware that there is a penalty clause in the contract, and that we have and will again enact that clause if so needed.
I would tend to think that if they've been penalized once, that they will pay attention.
That's my hope.
And if not, we have other options available.
Yeah, I'm just looking here, from one of our staff members that she's not happy, and
Is that somewhere in print?
yeah. If you look at the, where the
Yeah, I
bids
saw
are-
that one. I thought there was something additional.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Yeah, so that, that just puts an alert up there, because I know there has been issues before, so we definitely need to keep an eye on them,
Absolutely. Will do.
But at least we have recourse.
yeah.
Is it normal that there would only be one bid on a contract of this size from a cleaning company?
From what I understand from Mr. Wolf, they have had difficulties in the past getting bidders, although not to this extent. A number of vendors, when we made the initial advertisement in the papers, had reached out to us to get more information, but they just never followed up with a bid.
Interesting.
Anyone interested in?
I think what happens is that some of the other companies who may be able to do the work probably either can't or have never gotten a bond. So they can't really put up a performance or a payment bond.
Oh, that makes sense.
Okay. Well, we also
looking
have
for
a
work?
situation right now where it's difficult to hire employees. So
Yes.
that can be impacting some businesses as well. Any additional comments or questions? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the bid for cleaning services at the Municipal Center, Friendship Center, and Public Works and Sewer Operations to preferred janitorial in the amount of $61,006.68 as presented by Mr. Gutschall with recommendation as such.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any additional questions or comments? Any public questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Item D, we need to take action on a supplemental agreement with HRG Inc. This is for the Red Top Road Bridge project. Mr. Godshall.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, on March 12th, 2018, the board entered into an agreement with HRG for design and construction for the Red Top Road Bridge project. There is now required before the board this supplemental agreement to add preliminary engineering services to the project. This new agreement is, once approved, set to a maximum cost of $249,880.67, of which the township pays only 5%, and that has been budgeted in this year's budget. This being, of course, a part of the ongoing project that we have with the federal government taking a large portion of the project costs.
When is this project slated to go to construction? Do you know offhand? Well, if we're just going into preliminary design, I assume it's going to be a while.
It'll be a while yet.
Yeah, probably at least next construction season.
Well, it's
Right.
an important question because I think next spring or sometime next year is when work's supposed to begin on the Devonshire
Devonshire and Nyes Road.
Nyes Road.
Yeah, we wouldn't want both of those
You wouldn't want 'em
projects.
both happening at the
Yeah,
same
that,
time.
that,
I think they were going to start some engineering on that in September. Because that was supposed to be done in 2018
Right.
started, so maybe in
The-
September.
Yeah, the fall.
Yeah,
But
so.
I don't think they would allow both, they would plan for both of those
I don't see how.
projects.
we'll just want to make sure. But yeah, it would, the Nyes Road, Devonshire Heights Road project is much farther along in the process. If we're just doing an agreement for preliminary engineering, it's got to be at least
I would think next
I
year.
think a full year out.
next year, if not the following year before. But we will want to keep an eye on making sure that these two projects do not overlap, because that would, traffic is going to be an issue with each, so we don't want it all at the same time. Good point, Mr. Judd. Any questions, comments? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the supplemental agreement with HRG for the Red Top Road Bridge project. On the supplemental agreement in the amount of $238,667.20.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Zumas has made the second. Any additional board comments or questions? Any public comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That now takes us to subdivision and land development, of which we have some improvement guarantees, all of which, as I recall, were relatively routine.
Right, there are only 4.
There are only 4, and they're all routine, so any questions of anybody on those?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the 4 improvement guarantees as presented.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mrs. Lindsay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. That takes us to the payment of bills of Lower Paxton Township and the Lower Paxton Township Authority, et cetera here. Madam Treasurer.
Yes, I make a motion, we pay the bills of Lower Paxton Township Authority. The Township P-Card check register for November 2018 and December 2018. Township P-Card remittance for November 2018 and December 2018. Authority P-Card check register, November 2018, December 2018. And the Authority P-Card remittance for November 2018, December 2018.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Do we have any additional comments or announcements from the board?
I have one, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Our Lower Paxton Township Police Department has announced their Cops, Cars, and Coffee Spring Opener. It's May 5th, and it's 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. on a Sunday, and it's going to be at George Park. I understand it's growing each and every time they have this. So if you
That's
have
very
an
nice.
opportunity, get your cars cleaned up and run over and get some coffee and mingle with our police department. Thank you.
Anybody else? The next meeting of the Board of Supervisors will be a workshop meeting next Tuesday, April 9th at 7 p.m. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
So moved. Is there a second? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.